how do we work with people who blame when, at least to some extent, that propensity to blame is coming from the brain?
It's having a more of an appreciation of our interconnectedness more of the time and acting more as though we have an appreciation of our interconnectedness. When we turn our attention instead to our breath or some other object of awareness and tune into moment-to-moment sensations and become more aware of interoceptive experience, then the relative strength in our consciousness of this narrative about how bad the other person is and how good we are versus the experience of moment-to-moment sensation starts to shift, and the thoughts start to feel as though they're occurring more against the backdrop of this other sensory experience.
That's Dr. Ron Siegel, and Ron brings up an interesting perspective. By staying in the present and being more in tune with sensory experiences, it can weaken the good versus evil narrative that sets us on a blaming course. That can start to change the way that the client sees the problem. Now, to use that in clinical practice, how do we increase our clients' awareness of their physical sensations so that we can foster a shift from blame? Well, Ron points to a famous study done in 2007 at St. Joseph's Hospital in Toronto that was led by Norm Farb. The study suggests that there's a fundamental difference between two types of self-awareness, the experiential self and the narrative self. When we're in the narrative self, we're continuously repeating a version of the story of what happened and why the other person is the one to blame. When we're in the experiential self, we're simply in touch with our bodily sensations and possibly with our emotions like sadness or hurt. Here's how the study administrators helped bring out a greater focus on the experiential self.
They had people basically describe themselves at the level of experiential self, which is simply, well, it's warm in the room right now. I feel a little perspiration here. My heart's beating because I'm speaking publicly, that kind of thing, versus narrative self. I'm a man, I'm a psychologist, I'm a father, I'm a husband, these different ways of doing it, of appreciating the self or experiencing the self. And when people did more meditation practice, they were more readily able to shift into this experiential level. Now, an interesting side effect of this is the idea that as we move into this more experiencing self level, we're more likely to see ourselves as interrelated and even perhaps co-created with other people. And I think we can talk more about how, of course, if we saw ourselves as more interrelated and co-created, the likelihood of moving into blame is going to be less.
So just to quickly review, the more we stay with our sensations, the less focused we are on blaming others.